hit, one haunt. A burnt cigarette butt fell to the ground, landing with a soft thud. Moments later, the hurried thump of worn-out shoes echoed through the narrow street, accompanied by the rhythmic clatter of a rosary swinging in the man's right hand. He walked quickly, his steps syncing with the distant sound of bells signaling the start of class. But the chime didn't reach his thoughts. His mind was elsewhere, trapped in a labyrinth of noise and confusion. He glanced down, his gaze catching on the loose laces of his battered shoes. He crouched slightly, intending to tie them, but a low whispering sound stopped him cold. The murmurs were faint but persistent, creeping up on him from all sides. He straightened up slowly, his heart thudding in his chest. And then, bang! A deafening noise tore through the air, causing him to clasp his hands over his ears. The sound was overwhelming, drowning out everything else around him. He stood there for a few moments, frozen, until the ringing in his ears began to fade. Slowly, he lifted his head and scanned his surroundings, wide-eyed and disoriented. Suddenly, a piercing scream shattered the fragile silence, reverberating through the air. His pulse quickened, sweat beading on his forehead. He took off again, his pace quickening as he followed the cement path, trying to outrun the voices that seemed to be multiplying. They were coming from all directions now, faint, jumbled whispers overlapping, unintelligible yet terrifying. He couldn't tell where they were coming from, but one thing was clear: they weren't human. His steps quickened until he found himself at the entrance of the school. The sight of the building brought him no comfort, only a vague sense of dread. As he rushed forward, he collided with a teacher coming out of the building, their shoulders bumping violently. The teacher's stack of books fell to the ground with a loud clatter. But before he could apologize, the world went black. Darkness. A few minutes later, the light returned, harsh and sterile, illuminating a small room. On a metal table in front of him, 3 small plastic bags of drugs were thrown down with a thud. "Goddamn it, Madrid," the teacher hissed, pacing angrily in front of him. "You blamed the devil for your screw-ups, huh? We were this close to calling a priest to exorcise you. Turns out, all you need is rehab, not divine intervention." The teacher's scolding barely registered. Madrid's ears were still ringing, that overwhelming sound from before creeping back into his consciousness, louder and louder until it consumed every word. The teacher's voice became muffled, distorted, like it was underwater. All Madrid could hear now was that awful, piercing noise, a maddening cacophony that seemed to drill into his skull. His vision blurred as the teacher's words faded entirely, replaced by a suffocating, ringing silence. In the recesses of his mind, amidst the chaos and confusion, one thought surfaced, clear and sharp: this wasn't about drugs. This was something else, something darker. Madrid clenched his fists, his body trembling as the unseen forces closed in around him once more. And then, everything went black again.